Hey, somebody's got to find out what Peach Cobbler and Thomas Jefferson have in common. Today's both their national day. Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to the Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. This week, the Professional Noticer is sponsored by our friends at Kamado Joe Premium Ceramic Grills. The Kamado Joe in all its sizes and with all its specialized tools. Kamado Joe is the world's best ceramic cooker. Check out KamadoJoe.com or look for a dealer near you. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on the Professional Noticer. And today, I am so excited to have not only a friend, but a guy who Global Gurus ranks as the #1 sales trainer in the world. Please welcome Joe Pici. Hey, Joe, how are you?
Hey, Andy, it's so good to see you.
Man, I was just blown away when I saw. I mean, you were like the second ranked sales trainer for a year, and then #1 for 2 years. So,
you know, it's what's nice about it is we haven't written any advertising checks.
Well, that's true. You got all you can handle coming in, and I mean, I am amazed when somebody has as a client like the NFL Players Association and TSA. And you were able to close them on a cold call. So, but today we're going to be talking about something different. We're going to talk about priority management, correct?
You know, yeah, it's absolutely one of the cornerstones of our business and really what we're working with our clients.
And so how does this come about? I mean, obviously, even to figure out your priority has been tough for most people. Sometimes it's tough for me to figure out, what am I supposed to do? What is the most important thing to do right now? And, you know, we hear about the urgent overcoming the important. And so teach us, help us,
I'll tell you
Joe.
where it started. I got sick and tired of making dumb decisions.
Okay.
All right.
That's hard to believe that you would make any, but...
Well, because I used to make decisions at 80 miles an hour in my car with a gut feeling.
Okay.
Based on my behavior style, that's how my behavior style makes decisions. I changed it, and I went to more of a process decision making. And now, I mean, wouldn't it be great if you had a system of decision making that you knew immediately you made the wrong decision instead of $250,000 later?
Yeah, that would be great.
Well, I came up with an unemotional model. I'm going to roll out the model to you. And I use this model for every decision. I don't care if it's what I put in my mouth to eat. I don't care if it's what comes out of my mouth in the way of words. I don't care if it's a business decision, whatever decision. So everything starts with this. Whatever you're going to do, you have to determine how you want it to end, what you want to accomplish from it. So in other words, what is it that you want? Now, people will struggle with that, okay? Because if you ever really answer that question correctly, your life changes forever. Most people say things that they think other people want to hear. They say the party line. Well, I want to make $1 million. Well, I want to be successful. So the first thing I had to learn to do was determine what I wanted as an end result that I could quantify. And this is right up your alley. We had coffee 15 years ago, and you said, if you're going to play at the elite level, people have to be able to measure what you do.
Right.
Why doesn't that work for us? The next part of what is it that we want is when. So Joe Pici has concrete deadlines on everything I do. And, you know, I mean timelines and deadlines because If you know what you want and you absolutely have deadlines and timelines, things change. But then ultimately, the hardest thing we'll ever answer, and this, you know this better than anyone, because when you speak, this comes out continuously. And that's why. Why do you want what you say that you want? So that's the top box.
Right.
That's the hardest box we'll fill in, because if it lines up, if you know what you want and it's true, you know when you want it and it's true, and you know why, then when you have the tough decisions, if you negotiate with the tough decision, you need to check what or why.
That makes sense, because if you're starting with that destination, then you're designing your methods to go toward that destination rather than allowing your methods to determine where you end up.
Yeah. And the second section is the objectives, the goals. And this is where you and I get phone calls all the time, and they go, will you help me set goals? Will you help me put together a plan of action? Well, a plan of action and goals without the end result is a waste of time. So I always tell people, if you don't have the top box done, you're going to struggle, because, as you and I both know, every day of your life, people say, Andy, can you do? Andy, will you come here? Andy, can you do this? Andy, we got a great group of people that would love to hear you. And so what I've had to learn to do is this. Once I have the top anchored, when somebody asks me to do something, here's what I say. Is what this person asking me to do going to get me closer or further away from what I want?
Right.
Now, I'm not telling you I always honor that, but I know immediately.
Right.
If I choose to go sideways, I'm not going to get there as quick. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I know what you're talking about. We had a talk in our office the other day about everybody making sure that everything aligns with our purpose, that it has to, every little thing has to align with our purpose, what we're going after, and here we are to help people live the lives that they would live if they only knew how. And so everything we do has to align with that purpose.
In fact, the top box, I give it two names: clarity and purpose. Okay?
Right.
You and I both know there's 150 million clarity coaches out there. They all have clarity, but if you ask them what they want, they go, well, it's amazing. How can you teach something you don't know? And so clarity is whether, I go into a company, does everybody want the same thing? Does everybody have the same timelines? Now, the whys can be different, but the destination can't.
All right.
So now when we get into that second box, which I call direction and focus, this is where you build out your plan of action. This is the building blocks. We have a business model here at Pici & Pici, and I visit that business model before every phone call, before every proposal, before every sales meeting, because this better fit into our business model.
Sure.
I don't do random meetings.
Right. I know that about you.
I'm not the guy you invite to the barbecue to get to know. I'm the guy you bring to the barbecue because you need an answer, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying it's good. It's just for Joe and Dawn Pici, who did not come into this world with pedigree. We didn't come into this world with knowing the right people. As you would say, I didn't play NFL. I wasn't a corporate guy. I can't make a lot of mistakes.
Right. There's not a lot of room for error. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
And every year you get closer to the end zone, there's less room.
Right.
So now you have your objectives in place. So when somebody says to me, Joe, could you do this? Here's what I say. Give me a second. Because I can make $1 million decision, not that I have that many to make, but I can make $1 million decision like a 25-cent decision. What do I want? When do I want it? Why do I want it? Is this fit into our business model and our objectives? Is this going to get me further or closer to my objective?
Right.
And that's why I don't serve on boards. Not that I'm against boards. I think they're wonderful things. But a higher priority for me is business development. Now we got the middle box, and we're going to come back here in a second. Let's get to the bottom box.
Okay.
This is what I call execution in action. These are the things that you have to do in your dailies. This is the phone call. This is the lead generation. This is time on LinkedIn. This is your sales meeting. This is speaking for a group, coaching a group, consult. This is the quote unquote in athletics, the X's and O's.
Right.
This is where the 95% start. It's when you're in your junior year, your guidance counselor called you and said, you know, Andy, you have an aptitude in math. Be a math teacher. They didn't say, Andy, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? Once we know the activities, now here's what's important. We all invest time and money in personal growth, professional growth. If you weren't into that, you wouldn't be listening to Andy Andrews. When we see a void or a gap in the bottom box, the execution, that's where we invest our money to get better. So when people struggle with the telephone, it's not the telephone. It's they haven't tied the telephone into that end result.
Right.
So I wanted to throw the model out there first because I see you thinking, and I know you have a couple questions or comments.
Yeah. How does this, apply this to a young entrepreneur, a young person that's getting started, that has gotten a hold of what they're passionate about, but are not really sure where to go with it? Okay,
great. When I work with an entrepreneur, the first thing I ask them is, do you want to make money with this, or is this just passion? Right. I was listening to one of your podcasts the other day about talking to an author. You know, somebody called me the other day, I want to write a book. Well, do you want to make money with the book, or are you just writing it for a passion and a calling card? Right. So when a new business owner gets started, they have to decide, do I want to make money doing this? How much? Will this business take me to that income level?
Right.
Okay. So that's the first thing they have to be thinking about. The second thing they have to be thinking about is, because I'm a sales guy, who's going to get the clients? See, this is what I've experienced. Business owners get in business, whether it's a building or not a building, and they figure out what product they want to sell. That's important. They need to do that. Then they start doing mass advertising because they want to get the phone to ring. Then they hire social media experts. Then they hire a marketing director. Then they start paying money, but the only thing that makes money in business is sales. So when they're close to going out of business, or they finally realize it, now they don't have any money to put into sales. So they go like this, I know, I'll hire a salesperson and I'll pay them straight commission. And they have a product that doesn't have much margin, or you're not going to get a good salesperson doing that. So did I answer your question?
Yeah. And so it's, I think the priority that somebody should have is, can I stay in business long enough to get something going? I mean, and to do that, you got to make money, unless it's a hobby.
And that whole make money thing, I'm gonna give you a Joe-ism. I think there's a small amount of people that really go into business with the idea and count the cost. Can this business make money? I mean, they don't look at the details of what does it take to make money in that business. You know,
Right.
What are all the things? And I knew the business you were in and the business I'm in. I knew if you did it right, it made money. I knew that. But I also knew this. I didn't have pedigree, but I could sell.
Right.
So if you're a new business owner, if you're getting into business, please realize that your business is based on the number of clients you have spending money with you. And I look at everything Joe and Dawn Pici do, and I say, can we sell it?
Yeah, it is amazing to me that sometimes people ask about my writing and they say, well, I guess you're just writing like, what's in your heart and you're not really thinking about selling it when you're writing it, are you? And I'm like, well, I absolutely am thinking about selling it because it's too hard to do that if it's not going to sell. I got to have something that's valuable to people and to create something. And I look at it like I want to create something that they want to buy multiples of, that they want to, buy one and read it, and then they want to buy 10 to give to their friends.
Exactly.
So,
but I think
where did you first develop your sales chops? Was it recruiting college athletes?
Well, it was a number of things.
Because that's one thing I'm not sure a lot of people know that about you. You're a college football coach.
Yeah, and recruiting is a different animal, especially some of the places I recruited. And we were going against the best of the best. I would go head to head with the 1A schools, and we were 1AA. Now, 1AA doesn't exist anymore. Now it's FCS. But
right.
So you had the big dogs, the Alabamas, the Auburns, the Georgias, the Penn State, all of them. And then you had these schools like Appalachian State. Well, I was down there, but we wanted those athletes. But here's what I knew. I needed to find something that I could offer the moms, the dads, and the kids that we had a competitive edge. I didn't know I knew that. Now I realize that one of the reasons why I can beat some of the biggest companies in the country is because I understand I had to learn how to sell what my fastball was, what we had going for us, not what they had. When you look at sales or business development, if you draw a pyramid and the top is your competition or the incumbent, who are they using? And you're here and you're selling to this person. So how do you put a gap between your client and your competition? Here's what I knew. It wasn't selling strength to strength. It was selling what you do best against maybe what they're not that good at. Right? Well, I learned that recruiting. And then I got into a direct sales business that really was good, bad, and ugly because a lot of it was throw mud on the wall, and that wasn't my style. But I did learn a few things. I learned the importance of you had to have prospect leads, you had to be able to get face-to-face with the person with the checkbook, and you had to be consultative in your sales approach. I learned that. Now, I will tell you, there wasn't a lot of good teaching going on.
Now, what do you mean consultative in your sales approach?
All right, well, transactional is get to yes or no as fast as possible. Okay. Consultative is 85% of sales happens between the 6th and the 15th contact. 68% of the population are process sales based. It takes some time to make a decision. So if you're transactional, you're going to miss a lot of business. Consultative is really, it's no different than what you do when you work with your clients, is creating a solution. is being able to communicate that solution. So let's go back to priority management for a second.
Okay.
I started my career coaching in high school, and I'll never forget this. I went to the head coach. I was the defensive coordinator, and I said, because he was a great speaker, hey, I want to be able to speak like you. He said, good. We have our banquet next week. You handle the defense. I'm going to get my first speaking gig, man. I'm fired up. I got up there, and when it was over, my wife and he decided that was the worst talk they had ever heard in the history of public speaking. I kept going back over the same thing. Sometimes 4 and 5 times I'd miss my place. And there's very few people that can read and speak. Very few. So, but what I spoke about was purpose, direction, and execution. Well, that speech got lost. But I did it a lot of places. I was really horrible, then less horrible, then adequate, then that was okay. Years later, I'm cleaning out a garage, and this thing slides out of the book. And it literally is purpose, direction, execution, which was the preliminary building of priority management. How did I get there? I was a football coach. You had to think end in mind. You think national championship, state championship, you don't think wind sprints.
Right.
I was forced to learn how to think that way. And it's just carried over into business.
That's so interesting, and there's my mind is racing in different directions. One thing is that I remember how many times I've had the conversation with people who say, "Well, I'm not good at that," and really nobody's good at anything at first, right? I mean, Eric Clapton wasn't good at playing the guitar. Right. Until he could play the guitar, you know, and so it's a matter of doing that and catching those things and having. I think back, you know, I mean, you know, I worked as a comedian, and I think back to the first time I did that, and it just like it gives me butterflies. I think about how horrible that I was, but I did it again and again and again. And then took a lot of that comedy stuff into the speaking, and so it's the 10,000 hours thing, you know, doing that over and over again, and connecting the dots, you know, the things that you learn in one thing can apply in others if you know why they work as they do.
Well, you may not remember this one. You and I were speaking at an event together. And I had to follow you. And you came off the stage, and then I went up. And when it was over, I couldn't wait to get feedback from Andy. Because you were polished, man. And I was like Attila the Hun, but I thought I was good. I walked over to you, I go, hey, Andy, I want to be that good. And you said, you didn't crack a smile, you didn't give me a sarcastic grin, you go over to that guy and get the video. Take it home and watch it. I said to my wife, hey, Andy told me to get the video. I must have been really good. Well, we go home, and my wife knew. She didn't say anything. We've been together 50 years now, and there's a reason for that. And we turned it on, and in those days, I spoke at one level. I spoke high-pitched, fast-paced, no intonation, no let-up. I was just, and my feet were over the edge of the stage, and I was.
You were tough. Oh my God, you were tough.
And I thought I was at halftime, down by 3 touchdowns, and my wife looked at me. I go, Andy just ripped me. I said, but I'm so glad. I said, and I had a decision to make. This is going to be painful if I'm going to play. If I'm going to play, I'm going to play at the elite level. I just don't want to play. So I knew it was going to be, how many times could I talk? And how many times was I willing to receive criticism? But let's go back to priority management. During that doubt, during that boom, Joe, what do you want? I want to make 7 figures being a professional speaker, trainer, and coach. When do you want that? And I wrote the date. Why? Well, number one, I don't have a pension and I got to take care of this family. I wrote the reasons down. So then everything that came under that was building blocks of the next step. And then what our investment was had everything to do with getting better every day. So the priority management works for everything.
I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of Dawn, and you know, you were. I mean, you're tough now. I look at you now, and I just kind of chuckle because you're kind of that tough guy. But man, back then, I mean, people were like scared of you. I mean, it was like, ooh, okay.
Well, you know.
I mean, remember, Joe, you had this big black car. What kind of car was that?
Well, in those days, I was immature, so I drove a Cadillac.
Well, it was a big black one, and it looked, and you wear black, and you look like kind of like a, I don't know, you look like a cop or a mafia guy or
yeah. But the thing was, I remember reading Good to Great. And Good to Great said 5 years from now will be determined more on what you say no to than what you say yes to. Well, in the beginning, you don't know what to say no to because you know what your fastball is.
Right.
So you're trying stuff. Now, remember when you first met me, I was working 100 hours a week and I was building a business on the side and I was an angry man.
Right.
And although people didn't know it, I didn't have a lot of self-confidence because I hadn't acclaimed it anything. And it was one day at a time, hit it. And then all of a sudden, things began to break free. You know, all of a sudden, we're here. But the one thing that kept saying, Joe, be able to say no. You don't have to be all things to all people. And I say no to more things than most people do. And it's only because I'm not a jack of all trades. I know what I do well, and we're going to go vertical. Now, my wife has a different behavior style than me. So Dawn could do 5 things at one time. I'm not wired that way. So I will tell you something about priority management. It's easier for a task-oriented person to learn it quickly than a people-oriented person. Because people-oriented person are always going to opt to a relationship or helping people when they need the help, okay? Whereas
Right.
a task-oriented person is more focused on, I need to get the job done. So when I'm working with people, and I have a lot of coaching clients that are people-oriented, and I've had to mellow out and smile, but what I've had to work with them is, what's the most important thing you'd like to accomplish right now?
Right.
That doesn't mean you don't do anything else. How important is that to you? Because that's a big part of it too. To be able to say no to something, you better have a burning desire to what you're saying no for.
Yeah. Joe, tell me about your boot camps.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, twice a year, we're getting ready to go to 3 times a year. We have a 3-day sales boot camp. And even through COVID, we've sold them out. We have an extra big room. It's always at the end of April and at the end of October, early November. It's different. It's a different product because it's intense communications day 1, messaging all day, day 2 on value propositions, navigating gatekeepers. And then we go into 20 ways of generating leads. But then the uniqueness. is on day 3, we're getting in real calls to real people, and we're booking over 70% to appointment. We get through about 92% of the gatekeepers, and the same day we get phone calls back. And then we end the whole thing with priority and time management. It's a unique product because there's no role play. It's for real.
Yeah.
Our other boot camp, which has become very popular, it's a 3-day boot camp for people who want to make money in the speaking, coaching, training industry. It's not a presentation training. It's people that already feel comfortable coaching or speaking. How do you monetize that?
Right.
And so, it's we stay in that lane, and it's been good market for us.
Well, tell us how we get in touch with you. We're going to have the contacts on the show notes, but I want to hear you say.
Well, first of all, to get to Joe, pick up the phone. Have a complimentary cup of Joe. I will not bite. I won't use any hard sales techniques. It's 407-947-2590. But I'll tell you, we got a free product for you. Just take out your phone, put SALESEDGE in the text message, one word, send it to 55678. That'll take you to Pici and Pici link. It'll take you to a splash page. First thing you're going to see is a 5 free e-course video set, Recapture Lost Revenue Through Virtual Selling. Then as you scroll down, there's a link to our second business called sellmorevirtually.com. It's a membership platform. You can run around there. You can actually download stuff if you're not a member. There's 2 eBooks, one on LinkedIn, one on sales. And then there's links to our podcast, okay, Sales Edge. And I'll tell you, that comes out every Tuesday and every Thursday, and it's all about business, growth, and productivity.
Well, man, thank you for being here. I'm so proud because I have seen you kind of grow up, and now, I mean, you didn't go good to great. You went good to great to best, the #1 sales trainer in the world, according to global gurus. And so that is just an awesome accomplishment. You're helping tons of people, and thank you for being with us.
Well, thanks for having me back, and we're going to have you back on ours. So thanks, Andy.
Awesome, buddy. I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing the tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Scrabble tiles provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by rhymeyourwaytosuccess.com, the professional guide used by songwriters and poets the world over. Do you have something to say, but need a special way to say it? Simply rhyme your way to success with rhymeyourwaytosuccess.com. Use our copyrighted method for learning to rhyme everything you say, and do it today. You can be funny with very little money. Put your spouse in a romantic mood without being rude. It doesn't matter if you've written before. Don't worry so much about being a bore. You'll practice until your brain is sore. And from that point, it'll be easy forevermore. That's rhymeyourwaytosuccess.com. It's the bomb.